Look, we all know that inflation is probably here to stay. We also already know that investing is the only way to get ahead of inflation and creating financial stability for the future. You have also heard the horror stories of people who absolutely lost their shirts by investing their money the wrong way. Over the 10 plus years I've been investing, I've learned that there is a right way to invest and a wrong way to invest. And even though I'm a millionaire now, I absolutely didn't start out that way. Yet investing as much as I could, even when I didn't have a lot of money to begin with, is one of the way I got here. Contrary to popular belief, investing isn't only for rich, it's actually how you get rich. That's why I want to share with you if I started investing today from scratch. This is exactly what I would do. There is no gatekeeping here. I'm going to share with you the 5 things that I would do. Okay, number one is I would do index fund instead of trying to stock pick. The average person really doesn't have the expertise, let alone let alone the time to successfully pick stocks. A lot of people think that investing is about finding the next Apple or pinpointing that one superstar company that's going to outperform all of the others and hitting it big. But really, that type of investing is for professional investors like Warren Buffett, and it's really take full-time research and in-depth knowledge of financial statement of the company's management and a lot of work to successfully do this. This is what you call an active style of investing. Now, compare this to passive investing, which is another way of investing where instead of investing in one company and hoping that you have picked the right one, you're just investing in the entire universe of companies that make up the US economy or the world economy. One example of how to do this is buy an S&P 500 index fund. The S&P 500 is an index that contains all of the 500 largest companies in the US. So instead of trying to pick the one company out of the 500 that might do better and grow your money over the long term, you just buy all 500 companies in the index, which would be the equivalent of buying a small piece in the entire US economy. Now we all know the US economy grows. This is growth trajectory over the last 100 or so years, so many years. So why not just bet on the inevitable growth trajectory of the economy rather than hoping and praying with one CEO does a really great job and create the next Apple? And there is a lot of data to back this up. Passive investing does a lot better than active investing over the long run. According to SPIVA, which is a research arm of the S&P 500 Global, they did a study of the performance of actively managed investment fund compared to passive managed investment fund. And their funds are really eye-open over the most recent years. 59% of actively managed fund underperformed the S&P 500. This means that just by investing in the S&P 500, you would have done better than 59% of the hot shot Wall Street fund managers. Now, over the course of years, you could try stock picking, you could invest in an actively managed fund and maybe get lucky, but it's really over the long term where it really becomes about skills versus lucky. So the SPIVA data spans the course of 15 years, and so let's look at the SPIVA found about performance over a span of 15 years. Over the last 15 years, 87% of active managed fund underperform. The S&P 500, that is almost the majority. Now, here is the other things, actively managed fund. funds where some really smart guy is getting paid the big bucks to stock pick. They actually change a lot of fees, so that just add insult to injury. In addition to not performing any better than an index fund, they actually changed a lot more in fees. Index funds usually have super low costs, almost non-existent fee that are usually well under 0.2%. On the other hand, active managed funds charge at least 1 and sometimes even 2%. That may not seem like much, but over the course of many decades, and hopefully you have been living a long time and investing for a long time, that's result in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So check this out. I did a calculation where if you invest USD 10,000 every single year for the next 30 years with a low cost index fund 0.2%, you would have ended up with USD 1.045 million. However, if you had invested in more expensive fund charged 1% expenses ratio, you would have only ended up with USD 895,000. That is different over the hundred thousands. Now, if you invested in a fund that charged 2% fee, you would have ended up with USD 740,000. That's almost 300,000 less. So fees truly make a difference, especially over the long term. So all that being said, I would just forget about trying to stock pick or finding that hot actively managed fund and just going with index funds. Luckily, there are so many different index funds you can choose from. They are all super low cost, and index fund is basically a basket of stocks all in one easy purchase. And each index fund will always tell you which index that it tracks. Now, there are funds that track every imaginable index in the world. The main ones that you probably want to be aware of are the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Luxury 2000s. And we'll get into a few more later on in this video. And now, the second thing that I would do if I started investing today is I would diversity internationally as well as across asset classes. So let's talk about internationally. In these days and age, we have so many things going on with the US election. That's a total black box right there. We also have geopolitical risk with the US dollar declining in dominance, and then Russia and China making more moves in the world. So there is really a lot of uncertainty these days. So you do want to diversify and put your eggs in different baskets versus everything in the US basket. Because let's keep in mind, the US stock market only makes up 50% of the global stock market. There are many other countries to invest in that are doing really well. There is India, there is Canada, Australia, there is France, there is Japan, there is China. So you want to diversify internationally. Another way to diversify is by investing in different sizes of companies. So stocks are usually categorized as small cap, mid cap, and large cap. Small cap is companies with a market cap of under USD 2 billion by market cap. I mean total number of shares outstanding times the stock prices. And large cap companies have market caps of USD 10 billion or more, and mid cap is everything in between. So all these stock all kind of perform the same, whether it's small cap or large cap. They do perform slightly different at times. So nowadays the Russell 2000, which is an index of 2000 USD small cap company, have been performing almost the opposite of the S&P 500, which is the 500 large caps US companies. So to truly diversify, you want to invest in both small caps, large cap, and mid cap. The best way to do this is by investing in what's called total market index fund. That basically means small, mid, and large cap, the whole selection. That's where you have maximum diversification. Another way to diversify is across different asset classes. So asset classes are different categories of investment. And each asset class responds differently depending on the economic conditions, and they perform different as well. So for example, in times of inflation, like we have now, stock tends to perform quite well, because if you think about it, company, even if they have higher costs, they will just raise their prices and pass on the cost to you as the customer. So stocks tend to keep up with and outpace inflation, whereas on the other hand, bonds, because they are fixed interest payments and a return of a fixed amount of principal, they tend to perform very bad during times of inflation. They also don't perform very well during times of growth. It's really stocks that perform well in times of growth. And then during recession, the opposite is true. Bonds tend to do better in recession and times of economic stress. Other asset classes you could consider are things like inflation-protected securities. These are bonds whose payments are indexed to inflation, so they actually keep up with inflation. You can also invest in real estate through REITs, which are real estate stocks. So by diversifying across different asset classes, you can really de-risk yourself and bulletproof your investment portfolio as much as possible. By the way, if you like the way I teach, and please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Okay, let us continue. And now back to the video. Next up, I would also dollar cost average instead of trying to time the market. Dollar cost averaging is where you decide on a set dollar amount to invest at regular intervals. So for example, let's say you got a bonus or an inheritance or some sort of windfall off, I don't know, maybe $10,000. You divide that by 6 or by 12 and invest that amount at the same interval over the next 6 or 12 months. So $10,000 divided by 6, that is 1,600. I would invest this amount first thing every month for the next 6 months until all of my money is invested. And even after that, I would continue investing the same amount of money out of my paycheck. This is way better than investing all 10,000 into the market at once, because that is really shock to your nervous system, and we all know that the number of things that stop people from investing is the fear of losing your money. As soon as you invest and the market just crash as soon as you invest. Now that is always a possibility, right? And that's why we dollar cost average. Dollar cost averaging has two major benefits. The first, obviously, is the psychological benefits. It's much easier on your nerves to be dripping your money in and kindly off dipping your toes into the water gradually, instead of just a shock to the system, jumping straight into that cold plug pool with a bunch of money at once. And the second reason is it's actually really smart strategies that improve your investment return over time. Because think about it, if you are investing the same fixed dollar amount every single month, then you are getting in at different level of the market. When the market's high, you are buying the same amount. If your market's low, you are buying the same amount. And so what's end up happening is when the market is high and things are expensive, you get less share. But when the market is low and things are cheaper, that money buys you more shares. So you end up buying less when it's expensive, buying more when it's cheap. And over time, this really improves your average entry price. But the bottom line is dollar cost averaging works. And the best way to make it work for you is to automate it. Pretty much every brokerage platform out there allow you to automate your investment. So just decide on a dollar amount today. Set up your investment in dollar cost average. The key is to take yourself out of the picture. Automate it on a monthly basis so that it's not a question of it if you invest every month. It's just happening no matter what. It's really about having a long-term mindset and investing consistently over a long period of time. According to this BlackRock study, the longer you stay invested, the more likely you are to make money. So check this out. If you only stayed invested for 1 month, you had a 37% chance of losing money. Where if you stayed invested for a year, that went down to 24% chance of losing money. And then there is number of rare chances change in over a long period of time. If you stayed over 10 years, you only have 5.1% chance of losing money. And then if you stayed invested for 16 years, then you have 0 chance of losing money. That's because the market always goes up and it's recover from all the different little shocks and ups and downs, such as the recent Japanese yen panic in August. The market also recovered after the global pandemic in 2020. It's also recovered after the 2008 and 2009 financial crisis. The market also always recovers. So if you just stay invested in dollar cost average over this entire period of time and stayed in for the long run, you'll make money. Okay, the fourth thing I would do is I would also be really smart about which account that I invested in. A lot of people don't know about this, so they just open a brokerage account in Robinhood or some random brokerage without realizing that there are other accounts where you can save a lot of money in taxes. Now, taxes are everybody's single largest bill in your lifetime, so it makes sense to invest in a tax-savvy way. Because I don't know if you know this, but when you make a gain on your investment or you receive dividend or interest payment, all of that is subjected to taxes, but not but not if you shelter those investments in the right account. So one real great account to start with is the 401k. This is a workplace sponsored retirement account that allows you to take deduction out of your paycheck and put it straight into a 401k. What's great about the 401k is anything you contribute to it, it is an immediate tax deduction to your taxable income that's here. And then while the investment are in the account, they are growing, they are also completely sheltered from the taxes. And because we are contributing pre-tax money and then that money is growing tax-free, you end up with a much bigger nest egg at the end. Now, when you withdraw the money, you do have to pay taxes, but it still beats investing in a regular brokerage account where you don't get any tax advantage. Another account to consider is Roth IRA. This account allows you to make after-tax contributions, so you don't get any benefit from contributing the money. However, all the money grows in there tax-free, and then when you withdraw the money, it's also tax-free. This is amazing because even if you put $5,000 in and that grow to $5 million, that entire $5 million is your tax-free. Otherwise, you would have to pay a really good chunk to Uncle Sam in the form of capital gain. So Roth IRAs are an amazing deal. Another thing to look into is the health saving account. This is an account that not everyone qualifies for, but if your health insurance plan allows for it, I would definitely consider opening one. And with this account, anything you contribute is pre-tax. All the investment growth is pre-tax, and withdrawal are also free tax as long as it's for healthy related expenses. So that's make this the triple tax loophole. It's an amazing account to open to hold your investment in. Now, if you're self-employed, you wouldn't have a 401k, but you can open the Roth IRA and the HSA. And I would also look into the solo 401k or the SEP IRA, which is the equivalent of a 401k, but is sponsored by your business. Now, the covenant to a lot of this type of account is in return for the huge tax saving. They do come with restriction. You are typically not allowed to make withdrawals until you turn 59 and a half. However, there are ways to access that money sooner, such as through a Roth conversions leader, and in the meantime, you are saving so much money on taxes that it really doesn't make sense to not invest in this account. You are really only allowed to contribute a certain amount every single year, and after those years pass, you can't do make-up contribution for past years. So try to max out this account as much as possible and start your investing in this account. And last but not least, if I started investing today, I would make sure I had really good financial foundation first. By this, I mean paying off all credit card debt before I start investing, and having an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Let me explain. If you have the credit card debt, you are probably paying anywhere from 20 to 30% APR a year on that debt, where if you invest in the stock market, which typically return about 10% a year, then you are actually net losing money because you are paying more interest than you are making in the stock market. Not only this, but credit card debt is just huge wealth killer. So I want you to walk before you can run and pay that off and then invest. You gotta do things in the right order. Another way to get your financial house in order before investing is having a cash cushion of emergency fund money. The reason why is because your biggest edge as an investor is your ability to stay invested for a long time. Remember the stat I showed you from BlackRock. So let's say worst case scenario. Next month the market crashes, you get laid off from your job, and you have no other money to pay rent next month other than your investment. Then you will be forced to sell your investment, which means locking in your losses at the low. You won't be invested to benefit from the recovery, and you probably paid taxes fee and payments on early withdrawal from your retirement account. So being forced to sell your investment to pay for expenses is the worst thing that can happen to you as an investor. So you want to make sure you have an emergency fund that you can draw on in times of unexpected financial situations. So these are the two non-negotiable prerequisites before you start investing. Now I know investing can be super intimidating, but sometimes that's really helped me is thinking about the future version of me. I'll think about future law. I would think about future Harvey, the 60, 70 years Harvey, old version of Harvey, who will be so happy that 35 years old Harvey planted the seed and started learning investing today. I know one of the things that really stop people is always waiting for the perfect time to invest. I know the market is very violent. I know the market is very volatile these days. There is a lot of uncertainty in the world. But if you really think about it, there is always been uncertainty in the world, and the economies has always managed to grow. So I would not bet against that inevitable upward growth trajectory of the economy. And also, I would really put the things into place to make sure future you is well taken care of. And with that, I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave the comment down below. Bye.